Hello everyone, I hope you're well. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Now I promised around about 4 days ago or so that I would do a little demo with the Pigment ink pad Glacier White or Glacier White, and I ran out of stock. I've now got some more stock back in, but again it's selling fast, so I thought I'd better do the demo. Excuse me. And now I've got the wrong blending brushes. Never mind. There we go. So first of all, what I thought I'd do is just show you the Pigment White on black card. So the ideal thing for us, let's just grab a stamp. So I'll grab TE18. And if I just grab TE18 now. So TE18's got the decorations on. We've got the round, small and larger one. And I'm going to take the white ink pad. Now I would suggest that you try and make sure that your ink pad, your stamp is as clean as possible. Particularly, like for instance, if you've just stamped with VersaFine Clair Nocturne, don't go straight with your white into the Nocturne. Give your stamp a clean just before you go with the white. So I'm going to give that a really good inking. Nice juicy ink pad, and it's a pigment ink pad, so you can emboss with that. So let's just grab. Now I'm just going to, look at that, I've got white paint on the outside mucky pup. So we'll just give that a few moments. Let's move up there a little bit so you can actually see. Let's move the camera a little bit. So we'll just give that a few moments just to absorb onto the surface like I would do with any ink pad. And then we'll just lift that up. Now, the ideal thing about this is we've now, without using paint, we've got a white impression, which means we can then colour on top of that. So let's just clean. Oh, I'm chucking everything over the floor again, just for a change. So I'm going to just wipe off that white from there. As you can see, there was another colour on there. So let's take that one back. And then let's take the smaller one. So this is not necessarily about creating cards, but just showing the ink pad. So I'm going to take the smaller stamp, and there's a little lid. I just keep the lid on there just to keep that nice and clean. And then I'm going to stamp this one here, like so. There we go, just lovely. Now I'll let them just sort of put them on one side for the moment. Let's just give that a wipe. That shows you how it stamps on black card, and if you want to emboss with that, because it's a pigment ink, that will stay wet enough for you to emboss. But just so now I've got an impression on black card and I can add colour on the top. So we'll just leave that for a moment. I'm going to use my snippet stencil Bell. So let's take the Bell stencil, which is SS27. Now, as you know, when I'm playing or I'm testing a product, it does take me a little bit longer. Let's grab those scissors. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to, now the stencil is the same width as the card, which is why I designed some snippet stencils. So let's just place that on there, just so that we don't get any ink on the bottom. And let's place that on the top, like so. There we go. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add some colour to the bell. Now can you see that? Let me just move this up here, like so. And now I know I've left my other blending brushes that I wanted. Bear with me a second. Have I got any in here? No, bear with me a sec. pulled myself some smaller blending brushes out, and then I left them on one side because I'm good like that. Right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little bit of Twisted Citron. So let's take some of that Twisted Citron, and I'm just going to blend the Twisted Citron just over my stencil, just slightly over the stencil. And I don't have to worry about touching the other areas because I've masked that off with low tack tape. I'm then going to take a little bit of the cracked pistachio. So let's take a little bit of cracked pistachio. I do love a little bit of cracked pistachio. And I'm not sort of aiming all the way round. I'm just aiming in random areas with a little bit of the cracked pistachio, a little bit of the Twisted Citron, and just blending the colour here and there. We'll leave them open at the moment. I'm then going to take a little bit of Wilted Violet. Now, Wilted Violet is quite a strong ink, so I can just dab the excess off on there, just to make sure I don't have too much ink all in one go. And I don't need to worry because it's not too dark, it's fine. So I can dab it on my stencil and just add a little bit more, should I wish. There we go, just lovely. We can easily add more colour if we wish afterwards. So we've got Wilted Violet, cracked pistachio and Twisted Citron. Let's move those to one side. Let's lift this stencil up. You again could have another print with the stencil by adding some water to the stencil and adding that to another piece of card. Let's just move this out of the way. Now, let me see if I have a mask. That looks like the bell to me. Don't you just love it when you've got a mask? Not that it takes very long if I haven't, but there you go. So I'm going to place the mask over the top, like so. And it's a little bit bent, but there you go. Let's just hold that down, mainly because it's a little bit crumpled. But hey ho, it is what it is. I'm then going to take, which one are you going to take, Tracy? You can't remember the number, can you? TE50. Where are you, TE50? Of course, the one stamp that I want is never the one at the front. Bear with me. TE50. There we go. So I want TE50 because it has the trees on there. So if we bring out on the wild side, TE50, it has these trees that I can use. So let's pull that out. There we go. And I'm going to take the tree and I'm going to stamp the tree in grey. So I'm going to take my Morning Mist VersaFine Clair. This is a permanent ink pad. So let's take the permanent ink pad. And then I can add some trees just to my bell. And I'm just adding these in the grey. And because I've got the mask done with the copier paper, that means that I don't get a ridge. So there's no ridge. But what I can see, let's grab another piece of card. Just a little bit of card would be nice. So I'm just going to place that on the bottom. just so that I don't go over that edge. I've got a little bit of an edge showing. So let's bring this down a little bit, like so. There we go. And then I'm going to add, actually add another one as well. There we go. So just add another one. We'll add that. Let's have this a little bit in the sort of in between. So it's only sort of the edge of the tree. There we go. So we've got the edge of the tree, and you can see I've missed a little bit there. Well, that's because it's right in the corner. So what I'm going to do is just use the top of the tree and come in with the top of the tree and just add that just here at the edge. I'm then going to just blot my ink. You can give that a little bit of a dry if you wish. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the Glacier white, and I'm just going to use a small blending brush. I'm going to pick up a little bit of that pigment ink. Now, if you're going to use the white on your blending brush, keep that blending brush for that white. And what I'm going to do is take off the excess, and then I'm just going to just blend a little bit of the white just on the edge and just build that up a little bit. And what I want it to do is create a sort of misty feel. Now, you can do this with pan pastels, but I don't tend to use pan pastels very much. I tend to be an inky type person. That doesn't mean that I'd never use them, but I just don't. So I'm using the white, and it'll just make it like a misty day. Tap off the excess. And just dab. So it just makes it a little bit, so it's misty. It makes it a little bit misty. Now I'm going to grab my heat tool. If you want, you can just take your spare piece of card and just blot, just so the surface just isn't sitting there. Oh, crikey, Tracy. There we go. And then I'm just going to give that a waft dry. Preferably not with that white ink pad in the way. So let's just give this a little bit of a waft. There we go. And it sort of pushes them trees backwards, which is really nice. So then I'm going to take the grey again. No, the grey, I'm picking up the white now. I'm going to take the grey ink pad again. Take a little bit more of that. And then I'm just going to sort of go straight over the top with the grey. So I'm going straight over the top, and I'm going to ink it again. And we'll add these straight over the top here. There we go. And then I'm just going to give that a waft dry. And then I'm going to take the white again. So let's bring in this card so we can dab off the excess. So I'm going to keep this brush for my white. Then I'm going to dab off the excess. And then I'm just going to dab the white. I'm literally just dabbing You can just take off your excess on your card, and then I'm literally just dabbing that. And it pushes that down into the card so it looks a bit like a misty day. And it pushes it back without too much work. And it depends how much ink you've got on there with how much mistiness you add. But it pushes that back. And you can see I've got slightly more here than maybe down here, but I can keep dabbing that. Okay, then I'm just going to give that a little waft dry. And now I'm going to come in with, I'm doing really well with this. I just keep dropping everything on the floor. Silly cupboard. Right, I'm going to bring in my smaller tree. Let's move the white. And I'm going to take a, let's put that on the floor. I'm then going to take my Nocturne ink. So I'm just going to pick up the Nocturne. Just using the little tree. And then let's make sure that that's just covered up. And I'm just going to add the black in the foreground. So the black will be in the foreground. And then let's have that one a little bit taller. So then you'll have trees layered as if they're in a forest and it's sort of misty. Now I can see, I think I've just stamped that in the grey, you know, rather than the black. Not that it matters. Let's just take the black and add another black one. So I'm just adding some in the foreground now. I stamped that in grey, that's black, and I'm going to add a little tiny black one. Just there, that's it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab some copier paper because it's a little bit more absorbent. So let's grab the copier paper. Just saves on the drying time, so let's just mop up some of that ink just to save on the drying time. Now, if you've got any ink on your low-tack tape, you can just wipe that, and then it saves you getting it all over your fingers. So let's just give this a little bit of a dry now. And what we'll do is we'll actually take the low-tack tape off, just so that you can see some kind of visual. There we go. And let's give that a dry. Just hold this up. Yes, I think that's dry. And you can see you've got the trees layered, even the ones in the far back, because we've added that sort of misty layer with the opaque Glacier white. So it's an opaque ink, so it works rather nicely. So I'm going to dangle this from something. So I'm going to take TE. Why is it never the first one I come to? There we go. I'm going to take TE 44. So I love how it gives you that sort of misty morning kind of effect. But we've still got the black card that you can do something with, because it makes it easy now for us to colour. So I'm going to take the little bells from TE44. Let's put some of these stamps back because we end up in a right mess, don't we? So let's take those bells. Let's just make sure my hands are clean, and let's have a look. Let's lay the first one there, and I'm just going to do them in one of the colours because I'll probably add a little bit of colour to them with some pencil. So I'm just inking with my Twisted Citron. I'm just going to lay these. Do you like how I can't make my mind up? Let's lay them there. And I can add a little bit of pencil work just to give a little bit of shading. Now, how do you want them, Tracy? Or do I want to add any more? Do you like how I can't make my mind up? I'm just adding a couple more, just so it's sort of connected to the card, so it looks like it's connected to that card. And then I'll attach the bell as well. Now I can go in and add some more pigment white if I wanted to. I'm going to let that just rest a little bit. Then I'm going to take one of my brushes. There we go. And I'm going to take a little bit of grey. So I'm going to take a little bit, or do I want a little bit of the green? Do you like how I just cannot make my mind up? No, grey. So I'm going to take my little hickory smoke. And we'll just add a little bit of water to this. I've got that round brush again because then it gives me the option to hold on to a little bit more water. Let's have a little bit of water here as well. Just allows me to hold on to a little bit more of that moisture, just to give a little bit of shading just around my project, just a little bit. And don't worry if you pick up a little bit of the oxide from the bell, that's absolutely fine. In a way, it just adds to it. So just adding a little bit of the shading. Quite loosely, just to the background. And I don't worry if I'm touching the bells slightly, but it just gives a little bit of shading. Quite easy as well. Okay, so I'm just going to give a little waft dry. There we go. And then let's grab some pencils. Let's grab our we will use chartreuse. I love chartreuse. Can you tell? And I just want a little bit of a blue. What kind of blue are you? Not blue, purple. Why I did that, I do not know. What kind of purple? No. No. I like how it's taken me ages to decide what I want. This is what I'm like all the time. I'll test all these colours and I'm like, which one do you want? That one. I do like how it takes me ages to decide what I'm doing. So what I'm going to do is just add a little bit of purple just to my bells. Just so it's got a little bit of that colour in and it looks a little bit more considered. So just, there we go, adding a little bit of that colour just to those bells. There we go. And then I'm going to take my chartreuse and I shall just blend into that colour with a little bit of the chartreuse. Come back again and we'll add a little bit more of our, oh, but I do need to tell you the colour. It's Dahlia Purple and it is PC 1009. Chartreuse is 989. I just thought I'd keep the colour to myself and not actually share it with you, because that's handy, isn't it? Not. There we go. And then we'll just take a little bit more of the chartreuse. Just blend a little bit more of that colour. Just to blend out a little bit of the purple. And it really is an advantage actually having the camera, because you can actually see what you're doing better, because you can keep looking through the camera. So you can actually see what you're doing a little bit better. It's quite handy. Let's add a little bit of purple just to there. And then let's bring in this purple so that the bell is just attached a little bit. And then we can add a little bit of text as well. So I'm just going to add that with the Twisted Citron. So let's take a little bit of the Twisted Citron. And which text are you going to use now? The one about I just want a general probably going to be my most used one, which is TE11. So let's just, I'm just going to colour in a little bit more of the little bells. Just so that there's more purple than the actual green. And just very, very loosely colouring those little balls. I actually think I want a little bit of a darker edge as well. There we go. So I'm just going to add, I'm using black grape, and I'm just going to add a little bit more of a darker edge. Just to add a little bit more of a darker edge. I'm going to take the lovely TE11. So let's take TE11, and I'm just going to take Twisted Citron. So let's take some of that Twisted Citron, and I'm just going to add a little bit of text, and I'm curling that stamp just so I can add a little touch of text in the Twisted Citron. I'll hold it up once I've got everything in place and stamped. There we go. Let's have a little bit there. So you can see I've just got a little bit of the Twisted Citron on there. Just going to give that a clean. And then I'm going to take a little bit of Wilted Violet. So we'll take a little bit of Wilted Violet. You only need a little touch because the Wilted Violet is a lot stronger than the Twisted Citron. So you're just adding little touches, and if you curl your stamp a little bit, it allows you just to add those little touches to your project without it being too much. Just giving it little touches of the purple colour. Now don't forget to to wipe your stamp. I'm then going to take my fan brush. Let's take the fan brush. And I'm taking the fan brush because it's just a little bit finer, the splatters are. So just pick up a few more and just add a few more splatters just to the background. I'm not using much water, just little bits of water. We should really have our kitchen roll out. So let's take the kitchen towel. And then we've given that a few seconds, so we'll just dab the little tiny bits of water, but I'll just lift that up because you'll see, come on, focus camera, it's only tiny little dots. Let me see if I can point them out. Where's your pointy scissors, Tracy? You can see there's little dots of water just added just there. I love how you can see the trees through there. It's just wonderful how you can see them through. Right, let's have a little bit of a tidy up so we can see the wood for the trees, as they say. Let's move this down here. And then we can move that just out of the way a little bit. So I want to show you how the baubles are going to work with colours as well. Let me just see. Just taking TE53 because I just want to check something first. And if I'm not sure, it's great because I can use the acetate. So let me just take that TE53. So I was thinking I could just add, so if I take this off the acetate, and then you can see whether you just want a little bit of, yes, so I'm just going to have, let's use the black ink. So let's use black ink, and I'm just going to ink the top one, and then where I've just over inked slightly, I'll just wipe that. There we go. And I'm just going to add this just to here, just at the bottom, down here. Just so that I've got that at the bottom. Now I haven't quite got, where are we? If I'm ever looking for a black pen, I haven't quite got this down here, so let's just pull that down there, and there you go. I haven't quite got that there, so I'm just adding it myself. There we go. Let's just place that back. And then I can just take my little bird. So let's put TE53 back. And I can take my little bird from TE44 again. So let's take the bird. Which one are we? That one. Take our bird and our Nocturne ink. So let's take that Nocturne ink. Just make sure that's not going to fall off. I'm going to lean my head in just a little bit. There we go. Sometimes you have to lean in just so you can see above. There we go. Just so you can see above your stamp, which is great for you because then I just put my head in the screen. Okay, so let's give this a little bit of a waft. Give that a bit of a waft, and then I'm going to take my bleed proof white, and then I'm going to use a fine brush, and I've got one of these Fumu brushes that looks like a round 10, so nice fine point on that. And then we'll just pick up the bleed proof white. And then I'm just going to add a little bit of the white just on here. Don't cover the whole of your tree up so you can't see it's a tree. I'm just giving a few little touches of the white. Just pick up a little bit more of that pigment. just so it looks a little bit sort of more wintry. And it doesn't matter if you've got some thick bits or some thinner bits. Just to give it a little bit of that snowy feel. And a little bit misty as well. But I've actually got more trees on there, and I've pushed some of them to the back with using our opaque white. We just want a little bit on here, don't we? Let's just add a little bit more so it looks a little bit thicker there. There we go. So spend a little bit of time just faffing with your trees. And it's definitely decidedly colder out the last couple of days. But you've got more depth now because you've got layers of trees, so it looks really good when you've got those layers of the trees, just so that you can see. You've got lovely layers now with those trees. Just works really, really nicely. And you can just play as much as you wish by adding some more layers of the white should you wish. Actually, I don't know whether to colour them all in. Let me just... So this is the black grape. Just a little bit darker. Let's come in with the dahlia purple. I definitely faff. I really do faff. So there's not much of that. Spit it out. The light chartreuse. And then I'm just going to add a little dab of white. I'm going to add a little dab of white to this as well. And I always think it's a good idea that once it's dry, coming back in again and just adding another layer of the white. And again, you can do that with the trees as well. Just come in and add another layer just to give it a little bit more brightness. Honestly, I could faff forever, but it's not very interesting watching for you. Right. So let's move that out of the way. Let's just give this a clean, and let's give my brush a clean, because I don't want that to end up where it dries hard. I really don't want it to dry hard. So I'm then going to take a little bit of shadow just around here. So I'm using my Inktense pencil. So let's use our Inktense pencil. And we'll add, actually we use the same brush as well, and hopefully it's clean. Take a little bit of that extra moisture off. And just, don't think there's much moisture on there. That's a little bit better. Just blend out just so that you've got a little bit of shading just around our bell. And then I'm going to add my Posca pen. Let's add some Posca pen. So I've added my Posca pen this time first, rather than adding the sentiment and then you have to cover that up. So I'm going to take a little bit of the Twisted Citron. Now this is just, you know, a little idea for you with the opaque white ink. Again, if you dry everything first before you go and try to add it to your card blank. So let's give that a dry. And also it'll make sure that that white doesn't react too much with our oxide inks. If we give that a little bit of a dry, it won't react too much. And I love how it sort of looks misty in that bell. Oh, I just love that. Just simple, really simple ideas. Now let's add a little bit, like a touch of shading just on the corner of these bells. I know I'm a nuisance, aren't I? But let's just add a little bit of shading on the corner of each of the, just to give it a little bit more depth. Just works quite nicely to give it a little bit more depth. And I've added the Twisted Citron around the edge. Now it's entirely up to you if you put like a Twisted Citron layer on there. So shall we see what it looks like both ways? So I'm just going to cut a piece of white card, which I don't have, typical, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4. Four and a quarter. So I've cut a piece of white card now, 4 1/4 by 6 1/4, and let's add the Twisted Citron all around the edges. And the ink that we're putting on the non-stick craft sheet, you could mop up onto another piece of card. There we go. I'm just going to wipe that up because you don't want to see me create any more backgrounds. Do you think my wipes had it? I don't think there's much of the wipe left. Let's do a better job, shall we? There we go. Now that pigment is just sitting on there. So let's just soften that a little bit. I can't speak. Let's just soften that a little bit. Just with a little bit of moisture. And we'll try and find some dry kitchen towel. And when you look at your card, you'll see that that is softened because you've picked up some of that ink. And then what I'm going to do is pick up a little bit of cracked pistachio. And I'm just going to add a little bit of the cracked pistachio just at the very edges. So a nice simple card, but I love the idea. Imagine a proper full-on scene where you create a misty morning. There we go. So that's the cracked pistachio. And again, we'll wipe up our ink. You could mop that up with your card. Right, let's have a look now at our card. So we've got our card now just on the white card with the sort of twisted citron finish. Now, if I put it on the twisted citron, it does sort of pop a little bit more. Can you see that? Oh, look, I've just put that all over my card. Don't ask me where I've got that from. But you can see that it just pops a little bit more. So several times just take it off and put it back on again and see whether you want it white on white, like so, which also looks very classy, or you want to add it to your background. And I'm going to add this to my background. I think it just pops a little bit more. Or you can create two, and then you've got two different ones. Just add this. Again, putting some of that adhesive in the centre of the card. I don't use anywhere near as much adhesive with the glue dispenser. I don't use anywhere near as much. It's just brilliant. Let me just make sure that's in the right place. There we go. That's it. Just so you can see, we've then got that on the green edge, and then we'll add this to our white card blank. But I won't just disappear at the moment because I just want to show you how we can add colour now to the bauble. Not to finish the card, but just to show you with the bauble. It always looks lovely when it's matted and layered. It really does. So that is our card, matted and layered onto there, and it's just lovely simple idea, making that look misty. And then you've also got your pigment white you can use to add colour. So you've already marked your design out, and then, I mean, obviously if you've got colours that go straight on there. So let's take, what colour are we going to have? Shall we have some blues? Let's have that one. And then we want a nice dark one, don't we? Yes, that one. And then a very pale one. So let's colour one of the baubles just so that you can see. So we have indigo blue, PC 901. Then I've got electric blue 1040 and cloud blue 1023. So I can just lay my dark colour on here. Just lay that on there. And then I'm going to do the electric blue. Just have that electric blue. And I'm just adding that colour nice and lightly. And then I'm going to come in with the cloud blue. You could have also coloured the bauble, because you can see where it is now, with white pencil, and then gone over the top with your colours. So that's the cloud blue. Okay. So then we'll come back in with our darker blue. Just come in with that darker blue. Like so. I love testing how we can use products in different ways. So then we've got the electric blue. Come in with the electric blue. Now, if you were using your stamping platform, when you'd finish colouring, you could ink your stamp again with the white Pigment Glacier white and just go over the edges again with the white if you wanted to. Then let's use the cloud blue. Come in with the cloud blue. There we go. So I'm just going to come again. I'm going to come again with the indigo blue. Just come in with my indigo blue. And I do love the process of colouring. Then we'll come to our electric blue. And we'll come in and just blend into that darker blue. Then use your light colour. Again, going into the previous colour. Just gives it a different look, doesn't it? Means that your whole bauble looks different. Just going to get a bit closer to my bauble now, just so I can see where I'm colouring. Just because this light is particularly poor. There we go. Let's use the electric blue. I do love my Prismas. And then we'll come in with our cloud blue and just blend into those colours. This cloud blue is a nice colour. It really is. You can come round with the cloud blue now and just highlight the edge with the cloud blue. I'm only going to do one of these baubles because you don't need me to do two. And I will finish the card off and just put it on social media. So let's just add and you can see, and then I could put some spit it out, Tracy, some poinsettia, or you could actually leave the poinsettia white, but I've not added no green to that, so I don't really want to add that. I'll add some, oh, I know what I'll add. So on TE50, we've got these little sort of stems here. So to dangle the baubles, I can then use the Glacier white and then I can add a touch of colour to these if I wish. You don't have to if you don't wish, but I quite like adding colour. Let's take a little bit more. Of this. I'm just going to add a little bit just there. There we go. I'm then just going to give that a clean so that that opaque white just isn't sitting on my stamp, just so it's nice and clean. We can use our white pen and you hope that you've picked up the right one, and you can just add, that's not very white, is it? Neither of them are very white. What is up with you? Let's shake it a bit more. There we go. So then just add these just so that they are dangling from something. You know, you don't want them to just float in midair, or I don't want them to float in midair. So I'm just going to bring a little bit more of this paler colour just around the edge, and then I'm going to come back in just inside that. I'm just going to just add a little bit more colour, because I can see it a little bit better now. Then use that electric blue and going into the previous colour with the electric blue. And you can see how long I take. And then just drag that out with that cloud blue. And then we want to add some of our white. So we can now add a little bit of white here, a little bit of white there, just to make things pop a little bit more. And then you can but can you see how you can play with it now? You've got the white. We can add, so we can even add sort of little bits of this electric blue. You could add a little bit of, just a touch of blue. Let me just add it in a few areas just so that you can see. So you can add a little bit of blue just to the branches as well. But I'm going to finish that off because I will make it into a card. I will colour this. I may even add some white text because now I don't have to emboss if I don't want to. I can just take my text stamp, take a little bit of the opaque white, and I can just add little bits of text as well now. So it means I can have a lovely design. Let's have some white. Oh yes, you see, that looks just lovely on top of the blue, just scrummy. So I'm going to colour the other one in now because I know that I do like that with a bit of white. So we have a little bit of text up there. But you can see that how you can add a little bit to it. And then obviously I can add a little bit more work here. Give that a little bit more work. But can you see how you can keep playing? Just love it. So I hope you like the ideas and I hope you'll give them a go. And I hope you enjoy just having a little play with the Glacier or Glacier white. So I hope you enjoy that and you'll give that a go. So love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.